Welcome. I am Darth Vadad. Join me as I remember things I loved when I was younger and still love today. Elvis Costello blew my mind in 1993, not with a rock and roll song or a caustic interview, but with the Juliet Letters, a song sequence for string quartet and voice featuring the Brodsky Quartet. I had known the name of Elvis Costello, or Declan McManus, since his work with Paul McCartney on My Brave Face, the first single from Macca's Flowers in the Dirt album. Despite this introduction, the first Elvis Costello album I ever had wasn't 1989's Spike, or 1991's Mighty Like a Rose, each including a couple songs written with McCartney, or any of his late 70s or early 80s records like My Aim Is True or Armed Forces. Nope, I chose one of the strangest collaborations in a long career of ever-increasing musical variety. Up until then, I had every opportunity to pick up Elvis Costello records, but no real interest. I had nothing against him or his music. It's just that I had very little in my music collection at the time that wasn't by the Beatles or the four members as solo artists. When I was in high school, CDs were still a pretty new thing, and I spent my music buying dollars on Beatles CDs first, McCartney second, then the limited available output of the other Beatles. When I listened to the radio, it was almost exclusively oldies stations, which didn't play Elvis Costello. I was only just starting to broaden my music collection in the early 90s when I stumbled upon a PBS broadcast of a filmed version of the Juliet Letters, which did not include all 20 of the album's tracks. The VHS and later DVD release of the film had 13 songs. I'm not sure if the PBS broadcast featured all of these. Even if it did, I don't know if I managed to record them all on a VHS tape, or only got part of the show. Either way, it was enough to go on to help me decide to get the CD. For some reason, probably a limited supply of handy cash, I got the disc through mail from the Columbia House Record Club. If you never experienced the novelty that was the record club, it was a marketing ploy that promised several cheap records, tapes, or CDs up front for next to nothing, but got its hooks into you by requiring a set number of future full-price purchases. I probably got out of the club a few years later by not telling them my new address. Without an actual full set of songs from the Juliet Letters, I used my recording of the PBS broadcast to write a college paper for a class on how to write reviews. Without access to the liner notes, I got a number of details wrong in my review, but I remember getting a good grade on it nevertheless. Once the CD finally did arrive, I'm sure I played it almost non-stop, as I did with most new music I got my hands on. Those precious liner notes revealed that Elvis shared writing credits, both music and lyrics, with the members of the Brodsky Quartet. I would later learn the collaboration spurred him to begin deciphering the alchemy that is musical notation. As for his performance, there was no mistaking him for a classically trained singer, but upon listening to his back catalog in the ensuing months and years, I realized he seemed to really begin using his voice as more of an instrument with this project. Apparently, the music and lyrics were recorded simultaneously for the album, rather than relying on multi-track production and layering. Live recordings of the material from that era are remarkably consistent with the album's quality, which is a testament to both the skill of the musicians and Costello's ability to work with them, not against them, while leading the audience on the journey. Speaking of the musicians, the members of the Brodsky Quartet at the time were violinists Ian Belton and Michael Thomas, Paul Cassidy on viola, and Jacqueline Thomas on cello. Michael Thomas's wife, Marina, also contributed lyrics to some of the songs. Since their initial collaboration, the group has played with Costello on occasion through the years. The idea behind the Juliet Letters is an odd but compelling one. Elvis and the Brodskys set out to write songs based on different types of letters.
just thought I'd like to explain the title, the Juliet Letters. This comes from a small newspaper article regarding a Veronese professor from Verona, who for a few... it's all down here scripted, you know, you can tell. There was this professor in Verona. And for a few years, he took it on himself to answer all the letters addressed to Juliet Capulet, to Shakespeare's Juliet. Now, quite what was in any of these letters, I can only guess, or we can only guess. After all, these people were writing to an imaginary woman, and a dead imaginary woman at that. But we thought it was a beautiful gesture that he took on himself, and we decided that the form of the letter would be our inspiration, and what you hear tonight are a group of letters, hence the title, The Juliet Letters.
Now, I'm no professional critic, especially of classical music, but many of the songs on this album really touch me deeply. In particular, I Thought I'd Write to Juliet is based on a letter Costello received from a soldier around the time of the Gulf War. It always makes me wonder what happened to her.
I'm a female soldier, my name is Constance. I enlisted in the military, needing funds for college. I'm 23 years old, and if I do get home alive, I imagine I may think again. I'm sleeping with my eyes open for fear of attack. Your words are comfort, they're the best things that I have. Apart from family pictures and of course my gas mask, I don't know why I am writing to you.
As someone with divorced parents, I sympathize with the confused child asking questions of his mother and father in Why.
Why is Daddy not here? Are you crying? Why does he still love me? Will you take care of me if you both love me so? Why don't you love each other?
In the first to leave, I find myself saddened by the note left behind by a man who supposes he has moved on to some kind of afterlife. He addresses his surviving atheist lover, pondering their respective fates.
But if I should give you up, if you're right and life just stops, and I never see your face again, then from unearthly pleasures, proud and plain, I shall abstain till you realize my loss is your surprise, unless you know otherwise. Then don't grieve. You see, I had to be the first to leave.
Another song from Beyond the Grave, but more uplifting, is one Costello still performs fairly often. The birds will still be singing.
There will be tears and candles, pretty words to say. Spare me the lily white lily with the awful perfume of decay. Banish all despair, extinguish every sorrow. If I'm lost or I'm forgiven, the birds will still be singing.
Not every song is about a tough subject. Some are outright comedies, like This Offer is Unrepeatable, an aggressive piece of junk mail that evokes images of chain letters and demonic contracts signed in blood. Perhaps the most tickling song is I Almost Had a Weakness, in which an aging spinster replies to a nephew begging for money.
It pains me to mention these delicate concerns, but while I have to tolerate you family jewels, I really mustn't grumble. 'Cause when I die, the cats and dogs will jump up and down, and you little swines will get nothing. Though I almost had a weakness.
As for me, I definitely get something out of this music on every listen. If you have a chance to find the 2 CD Rhino reissue edition from 2006, I encourage you to grab it. The second disc features a wide variety of Costello rarities, several of which are collaborations with the Brodskys, including covers of More Than Rain by Tom Waits and the Beach Boys hit God Only Knows. A younger audience probably would find the idea of a bunch of songs about mostly fictional letters and letter writers somewhat alien or otherworldly, especially in the current age of character-limited social media and texting. But musicians from all over have performed the Juliet Letters and will probably continue to do so well into the future. Though it might be something of a musical curiosity, I have to give these songs a lot of credit. They helped guide me to an appreciation of Elvis Costello, who is sort of a gateway drug to a much wider variety of music than I ever imagined as a young man. Without him, I would never have discovered any number of artists, including two of my favorites at this moment, Ron Sexsmith and Larkin Poe, acts that have both opened for Elvis and performed alongside him. What Elvis Costello song or album first brought him to your attention? Feel free to share in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, tap the like button and subscribe for more Darth Vadad videos, or consider joining my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/DarthVadad. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.